Welcome back. I'm doing another video here, and this one will be about how to draw the head, right? And the thing about like drawing anything is that there's never one method to do stuff. But at the end of the day, when you're drawing things, they're all made out of shapes. So with the head, right, you have really two different parts. You have the top, right? So the cranium or whatever it's called. And then you got the bottom, which is the jaw. And it's mainly a shape that's kind of like I don't know, it's like a trapezoid here and then kind of like a prism, right? And that's really the human head. And then you get the neck that's kind of like cylindrical and it goes inside the jaw. And it's a cylinder that kind of expands, right? And you get the body on top of that, kind of like that. And there's many different methods to draw the head. I think there was the one called the Loomis method, which was the first one I learned, where you just kind of, you draw the head and the basic shapes, right? And then you cut off the sides of that sphere and you end up with like a, you know, it's like a flatter shape now. It's like a cylinder, but circular on the sides. And then you kind of just draw the different parts. But I don't do that anymore because every time I draw a human head, I don't want it to look the same. So I kind of just doodle something in, like let's say I want to just, so I'll draw the facial features first now, since I am a bit more experienced, and then maybe I could just fill them in, like you see how it begins to look like a human face, and I'm just exaggerating the different parts. So that was really without any planning. And it tends yet to look more cartoony, but as long as you render it in, it's going to start to look more, not realistic, but it's going to look more, what do you call it? Less cartoony, but it's going to still look cartoony, but the rendering is going to look more realistic, and you could do that. But when you're drawing a head, it's still very important, of course, to understand the shapes, because if you don't understand the shapes, the 3D shapes that make up the head, you won't be able to draw something quickly or like unique, right? Because if you keep using the same template over and over, your heads are all going to look the same. Well, of course, every head has to look the same to a certain degree because you are drawing humans, and humans, we all have the same shaped head, you know, like, of course, it changes a little bit. Some people have like more triangular heads. Some people got more you know, circular heads. Some people got like squarish heads, right? Right, different types of heads. But overall, the main shapes is sphere. Then you got the jaw here, right? And so what happens is the nose, on the way down here, you have the head kind of goes like that. You get the brow ridge, right? And on the way down some more, you get the nose. And underneath this brow ridge, you got the eye sockets. So remember those shapes. It's kind of like a shape that goes out like that, like kind of like a canopy on top of those stores. Like, you know, sometimes you have a store outside, and then you got that thing on the top, right? That thing on top of the store, and then you got the windows of the store here. So that's the human head. It's got something like that. The front is kind of like flatter, and then now you got the side here. You cut off that part. So it's kind of like the Loomis method that I was explaining here. And then on this side, it goes through, and then you have the cheekbones, and then you have the front teeth. This part, sometimes it goes in. Depends. Not all faces look the same. So some people have bigger cheekbones. Some people got flatter, more sunken cheekbones. It always depends. And then here you could draw the chin. Depending on the person, sometimes the chin could go outwards more and inwards more, right? And it, you know, the front row of teeth kind of just goes same, you know, they're symmetrical. It's kind of this one, but the top ones, they kind of go over the bottom ones a bit more. And now sometimes depending on the size of the jaw changes sizes, you know, depending on people. And then here you got the jaw. So that's kind of the basic head shape, right? And then now we're going to add stuff to it. So I'll erase it softly. And so you could do this in different angles as long as you remember the shapes, right? So if we do it from the front here, you got the square, right? You got the shape that goes down. You got the canopy here. You got the nose triangle, right? You got the cheekbones. And where we kind of cut off the side of the head. Right. See? So you kind of end up with the same shape. You could just do this for every side of the head, right? Even the side. But the side of the head is the trickiest because when you go down, it kind of does get difficult sometimes, and depending on the person you're drawing, not all heads look the same from the side. The side is where most things differ. And then the eye socket, since it, you know, as humans, we have the eyes on the front. So sometimes you'll see, like in some cartoons, they'll draw the head where you could see the eye from the side, and it's too big. Like, nobody's eyes really pop out of their skull that much, or the skull usually, because if you draw that person from the front, they're not gonna look like a normal human being if the eyes are too far to the side like that, right? We don't have the eyes to the side, right? It's not like that. So you're gonna see like small part of the eye from the side, not the whole thing. So you try not to make the eye socket too big. So here you got the nose and you got the skull. Right. So I'm just going to erase the top of this one. I'm going to erase it lightly. So I'll just roll this over it. And now we'll fill in the facial features. So the eyebrows, they're gonna go a little bit, not underneath it, but that fat, there's a little bit of fat on the top of our eyes, and so sometimes it could go really far back, or sometimes it could be, so eyes are always different, right? You can have an eye maybe like that, right? You can have an eye with the hood, right? And sometimes depending on the shadow, sometimes the shadow could be really dark, and that can make the eye look different, right? Sometimes you'll have wrinkles on the side of the eye. So eyes are always different. And now even folds on the bottom. Sometimes even a darker brow. Maybe even more folds. Sometimes even that part here underneath the eyebrow and in between the eye, it could have more fat in it, right? And it just kind of leans down. So the eye can always change depending on how young or old a person is, or how what's the level of body fat they have, right? Or how the fat is distributed around the face. So it could always change. That's why you should always practice from different looking people. Don't always stick to drawing one type of person. Never. Don't do that, because then you'll end up drawing like template people, and that makes your art look boring. So don't do that. So here I'll draw the eyebrows in. Right, sometimes you'll have like wrinkles and folds in this area because, you know, facial expressions. So areas where you find the most folds are like where the eyebrows move, where like the nose kind of meets the eyebrows. Right, so let's draw the nose here. Let's give this guy a little bit of a bump in his nose. So sometimes there's a bump here depending on how the nose grows in. And then we'll draw his eyes. So of course the eyes are eyeballs, right? So we'll have the eyeballs here, and then the lid goes around it, and you add shadows more to the tips of where these folds meet. So depending on if you want to make the person look tired or not, you could change where the bottom eyelid is. Here we'll make it like medium. He doesn't look too tired, too awake. So add some folds underneath. And depending on how much fat a person has in their face, you could make the cheekbones either feel the presence of the bones is more what's it called? It's more visible, right? If the person has less fat. But if there's more fat, of course, we won't put as much bones. We won't make them as visible as it is, right? When it's less fat. So here, let's just put a little bit of cheekbones for the sake of the demonstration. Now, underneath the nose, sometimes you'll see more shadow. And then there's that part here that's kind of like a dent, right? And then the top lip has this bump. And then the lips kind of droop to the side, right? And then sometimes you could put more shadow for the top lip, but you also got to make sure you put that shadow here. And then you get shadows here implying that there's this lip. It's kind of like negative space, right? These shadows are negative space, and it kind of shows you, implies there's another shape here, which is that bottom lip. And sometimes there's more folds underneath the lip, right? Put a shadow here. Put some shadows here. So let's say the light source is here, from the front, right? So we'll be seeing shadows here from the side, right? This side will be completely shaded in. This side too, because the cheekbone kind of goes like that. We'll also shade this side in. Shade some of that eye. Side of the nose, bottom of the nose. That lip will be completely shaded in. Part of this side will also be shaded in. This side will be completely dark here underneath the eyebrows. Let's give the guy some hair. Now the ears. So ears I get kind of lazy with sometimes. Like, I don't know how to explain it. You just draw. There's that part on the bottom, the lobe. Then there's that thing. And here you got the ear hole, whatever it's called. And I just do that around it. You know, it's not anatomically correct, but it still looks like an ear. So there we go. Got an ear. Now that muscle of the neck, it attaches behind the ear somewhere to the skull. And then it's there. So here we have the light source here, so the shadow is going to be over here. And then there's another muscle of the trapezius, and it attaches to like the back of the rib cage. And then depending on how far the head is, the posture of the neck, right? Sometimes some Adam's apples are not visible. But here we could put that shadow underneath the, I think it's called the trachea, that bone in your neck, around your windpipe. So you could put a shadow around that shadow over here, where these muscles meet the, is it called the clavicle? I don't know. That bone on the bottom of your neck. That's the beginning of the rib cage. Some shadows here. It's kind of like the point of view is kind of looking at him from up here, and so that shadow is going to be like, I mean the shoulder, it's going to be like that, and his body's kind of going down this way. Give him a shirt. But yeah, this bone right here is a strange bone because the shape is it's very hard to see from outside the body. So let me move it up. Yeah, let me move it up. So that bone kind of has this shape to it, right? And then it goes like that. It goes to the back. These muscles attached to it. Like that. Then there's muscles here, and then there's muscle over there. Muscle over there. Then you'll have some shadow here. So that's the neck bones. But yeah, hope you learned something from this video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and thanks for watching.